One of the things that a successful person recognizes is when we are at a turning point. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, lead, and inspire. And boy, oh boy, are we ever at a few turning points right now in our history. This is an incredible time frame in American history. You're living through it. People don't understand, well, this is major history. This is major history that is happening right now. We are at a turning point, and there are so many different turning points that I want to go over them with you. All right, first of all, the obvious one is the pandemic. Well, they're all obvious, okay? Is the pandemic. Yesterday I went to the beach and kept my distance from everybody, and I was just about the only one there following that. I saw crowds of people just together, just like old times. Oh, it's so good to see you. Woo! That type of thing. It's like, obviously people that hadn't seen each other in a long time, this is the type of thing that's going to hurt us down the road. And the sad part about there's a positive side to the demonstrations. The negative side is the people are in close quarters. I pray that I'm wrong. I pray that we're not going to have a major spike, but my common sense tells me where there's a virus and people getting together in close contact, you're going to have a major spike. So we're going to be at a turning point pretty soon with that. We've already been at a few turning points where shut down the government, shut down the economy. So we've had a few turning points. Let's move on to the next turning point. The next turning point is, of course, the issues brought to light by the tragic events that happened in Minneapolis with George Floyd. Now, this is not the first time that we've seen injustice to the black man. It's not the first time, but it's the first time where we have had never-ending protests, voices, so on and so forth. And the white population, it's a wake-up call for white America. Finally, people are saying, you know what? For the most part, I don't harbor any prejudices, but now I get it. I see that there are challenges being faced every single day by this segment of our population, and it's time as a decent human being to stand up with them, hold hands, lock arms, make rules, change the mindset for future generations so that this country can become what it's all about to begin with. All men are created equal. That's something, it's sort of like a vision statement that a company would make. What do you see? Well, the Constitution, that's our vision statement, isn't it? That's the objectives. Those are the objectives that we're trying to fulfill. All men and women, it should say, are created equal. So we're at another turning point. We had a turning point, just to give you an idea of another turning point similar to this certainly before most of your times, was in the 1960s, Martin Luther King's I Had a Dream speech. That speech didn't just move black people. That speech moved the entire country. There was a definite mindset shift, what a company would call a paradigm shift. I worked with a company, and they were always talking about how we're right on the verge of a paradigm shift, and our product is going to be indispensable. Everyone's going to want it, so on and so forth. And to some degree, that's happened. I mean, when you think about all the problems with identity theft, 30 years ago there were no identity theft, or 40 years ago, I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a while, that there weren't any identity theft issues. Now it's something that, well, there's been a paradigm shift. People are concerned about that now, and they, guard their identity, they guard their information. Years ago, you just give out your social security number. It was no big deal. Now, hey, I'm holding that one close to the vest. You're not going to get to see that. So we've had a few, I'm just giving you some examples of some paradigm shifts. And now we're in the midst of another paradigm shift, the one that I really want to focus on today, and that is with the man that occupies the White House. Now, one of the things that we know from our past lessons, that if you don't know, listen up, is that when people have a similar interest, they form a tribe. When I was a basketball coach, as an example, all the coaches would meet at the end of a game day. We'd meet in this one place, have a drink or two, and talk about, we were opposing coaches, different schools, all right? But we were a tribe. We all had that same thing in common, all right? And people tend to have that. You can have a chess club, a bridge club, an orchestra. You form a tribe. And when you form a tribe, you form a very strong bond. Now here's, there's a lot of good with that. There's a lot of good with that because it's a focus, people are moving forward, people share. But there's also a bit of a negative side to that, and this is what it is. When you are a member of a strong tribe, you tend to, on occasion, many occasions, ignore the facts in favor of the loyalty that you have to that tribe. And it takes a tremendous act or a tremendous series of actions for someone to break away from the tribe and say, you know what, loyalty is one thing, decency and respect and truth and honor are something else. Now, have we seen this before in American history? You betcha. When Richard Nixon was elected in 1972, I was in college. One of my classmates in one of my classes was a lady named Mary McGovern. She was the daughter of George McGovern, who happened to be the Democratic candidate for president against Nixon in that election. You probably don't even know his name. All right? Now, in that election, Nixon won 49 of the 50 states. I'm proud to say that I'm from Massachusetts, and people had on their bumper stickers on their car, Massachusetts, the only state. Right? The only state that did not vote for Nixon was Massachusetts. It was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, landslide in presidential election history. So if ever there was a man that had the endorsement of virtually the entire country, it was he. But less than 4 years later, he gone. All right, he's out of there. So what happened? Well, little bits and pieces. All right, it broke up. There was the Watergate, and then there was this, and then there was that, and then there was this, and then there was tape recordings in the White House, and he said this, and he said that. Oh, really? And so on. And then little bits and pieces. And he had, at the beginning of all of these issues, he had tremendous support. Tremendous support. There were very few people. This broke before the election, the Watergate thing. But he still won 49 states. So it took a long time, relatively speaking, for people to get off the Nixon bandwagon until finally, when his closest allies said, hey, I'm sorry, I can't support you anymore. That's one of the things that led to his resignation. So it takes some doing. The strength of the tribe, the loyalty of the tribe is very, very strong. Now we are witnessing that once again, a turning point right here, right now, with this president. When you talk about Mr. Trump, there are people that really, 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 really love him, and there are people that really, really, really don't love him. And no matter what he does, the people that love him are going to still love him, and the people that don't are still not going to. They're members of the tribe. They can't, it's like, this is the way I see it. I don't see it. So, but here's what's starting to happen. You're starting to see people jump ship with the loyalty. General Mattis just came out with some incredibly strong words. He was the former Secretary of either Defense or State. Okay, I think Defense, okay, Secretary of Defense. And the present Secretary of Defense came out with a strong statement. I mean, this guy's still there, right? It's one thing when you're not there, all right, but this guy's still there. So we're starting to see people jump ship. Finally, there are some Republicans that are saying, hey, this is not the right way to go. One of the, I believe, senators came out and said, you know, I'm not thinking that I'm going to be able to support this guy. So, and this is apolitical for me, all right? I mean, when Trump got elected, my first thought was, hey, he's got a different mindset than other people. Let's give the guy a chance. He's a businessman. Let's give him a chance. Let's see what he can do. I was, you know, that was my mindset, right? I mean, we're going to be with this guy for 4 years, and when people get into the White House, typically what they do is they tend to go, if they're on one side of the spectrum, they actually tend to move closer to the other side of the spectrum most of the time. And there's a sense of fairness about them. And there's, you know, different factions that govern their actions. So, but now we're starting to see where people are jumping ship. People that are in the tribe that supports this president. And these are not minor people, these are major people. And once the major people jump off the diving board, you're going to start to see people start climbing up the steps so that they can get to the diving board and they can jump off too. Now, my point is, as a business person, as a human being, as a leader, you want to be in a position where you're recognizing what's going on. Recognize what's going on. When you see people start to jump ship, then you know that there's something going on that's not right in the background. So take it as a warning signal. So we've talked about some major turning points that we're having. One with the pandemic, which hasn't happened yet, but what I fear in the next, you know, by the middle of July, certainly will rear its ugly head. I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't. But looking at the activities of people around the country, it's, you know, and I'm not a medical person, but when I see people in close contact, what else can you think? And, you know, also the you know, the race relations, we need to change that mindset. You start by making rules. People aren't going to agree with those rules to some degree, but the mindset will carry on and it will evolve to something better. And the third thing is the breaking up of the tribe of the people that are behind one particular selfish, to my mind, point of view. It's time to stop focusing on re-election and time to start focusing on the challenges that face this country. And the next message that we're going to talk about is, as a leader, making sure that you take advantage of opportunities. And because we will never end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's get out there and charge. I'm Eli's dad.